This video is brought to you by WorldSoccerShop.com, offering the world's largest selection of authentic jerseys and apparel for both club and country. Hey guys, Josh from SoccerReviewsForYou.com, bringing you my first impressions plus on-feet video of the brand new Adidas X 15.1 in the leather upper variation. Now inside the box, they do include a string bag to go along with the shoes themselves. The string bag is black in color with neon yellow strings. You're going to find a paint splatter graphic in neon yellow and orange, your X logo on the front in white, as well as your Adidas football branding, while the back of the bag is left pretty much solid black, totally blank. Other than that, all you're going to find inside the box, as you guys can see, are the shoes themselves. So we'll get these guys out of the box really quickly, and we'll take a closer look at the leather upper variation of the X 15.1. Now this is an interesting shoe in that, one, it's a different variation of the standard X 15.1, which obviously has seen the majority of the attention. Aside from the upper being partially leather as opposed to fully synthetic, there are some other significant differences between the two versions of the shoe, most notably that the leather version, as you guys can probably already tell, does not have the tech fit design in the heel ankle portion of the shoe, which of course we'll be talking about in today's video. We're going to go over the tech specs, we're going to go over the weight, we're going to go over the fit and feel as well. So if you're interested in learning more about the leather version of the X 15.1, please stick around, watch the entire video. We're going to go over absolutely all of that. And if you guys are interested in a pair of these for yourself, click the very first link down below in the description of this video. It's going to take you to the review page on my website. And on that page, you will find Buy It Now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes where you will be able to pick these guys up below their normal $220 retail price. So again, if you're interested in a pair, first link down below in the description. And it's also worth noting that the retail is $220, right on par with the synthetic model. So unlike what Adidas has done in the past, you're not paying a premium to get a partially leather upper. It's the same price. So it's really a matter of which type of feel that you're looking for, as opposed to buying the cheapest version of the top end model within that particular line. So with that being said, let's get right into the review. So what's on offer when it comes to performance with the leather version of the X 15.1? Now the main reason why you'd buy this shoe in the first place is because you like certain elements of the new Adidas X line, mainly the sole plate and the stud pattern, but you want something with a more traditional type of feel, both on foot as well as the type of touch that it's going to provide on the ball with the natural leather that you're getting on this upper, as opposed to a thin synthetic. Now with that being said, aside from just having some leather on the upper, there are some other changes to this version of the X 15.1 in comparison to the synthetic model that make it a fair bit different in terms of overall feel, which I will point out a little bit later during the on-feet portion of the video. So again, if you're trying to decide which is the better of the two variations, the leather or synthetic, it's really a matter of what your preferences are, as opposed to one just being better than the other. They're two different shoes, both very good. It just depends on what type of feel that you're looking for. Now in regards to the upper, while they specify this as a leather upper variation, the majority of the upper is still made from synthetic material, which is a bit disappointing but not too surprising when it comes to Adidas's leather variations. Now what is a little bit surprising is the type of leather that they've used. Historically, if we're comparing this to the F50 line, which I think it compares to pretty nicely, the upper that they've used made out of leather has always been some variation of calfskin that they've given its own fancy name, Golio, Taurus leather, whatever it may be. On this particular shoe, they've actually implemented a K-leather material, which is a little bit higher quality. Kangaroo leather is always considered the best of the best. Is this the nicest kangaroo leather I've ever come across? The answer to that question is no, but I will say that it is better quality than what we have seen on pretty much every single F50 prior to the X 15.1. This little symbol here that's embossed in the shoe, because I know a lot of you guys will ask, what does that symbol actually mean? It's essentially just a symbol letting you know that this is made from natural leather. That's it. It has no performance value whatsoever. It's just a symbol that Adidas likes to put on pretty much all of their leather shoes. Now, like I mentioned, the amount of leather is not great on this particular shoe. Again, similar to what we've seen on F50 models in the past. The seam is right here, so you can see there's kind of a curved seam on the lateral side of the shoe that cuts off pretty much just above the very bottom lace hole. And then if you go all the way through the forefoot and toe box area, that is very clearly 100% K leather. And then the other seam on the medial side is right here, just after the second lace hole at the bottom of the shoe, and it's cut pretty much straight down to the bottom of the sole plate. So you can see they have printed some of this graphic on top of what is still natural leather. So you're getting leather mainly in the forefoot portion of the shoe, and then the tongue, the bottom half for whatever reason is synthetic, and the top half is made from leather. You'd think it'd be the other way around, but it's not. They did it backwards in my opinion, but nonetheless, it feels pretty good on feet. The rest of the shoe, so from those seams back, is made from a synthetic leather material that's not quite as padded. It is a little bit thinner, and it just isn't going to provide the same type of feel. So you're going to get a relatively thick, very cushioned, very padded type of sensation when making touches on the ball. At the front portion of the shoe, it's going to feel very natural, very leather-like, obviously, because it is actual leather. Whereas the midfoot, like I said, is going to be a little bit thinner and just not quite the same feel. But you will get some of that padded sensation across the top of the foot, being that part of the tongue, or half of the tongue, I should say, is still made from leather. So central lacing system, that hasn't changed from the standard X15.1, but what has changed is one, the non-stop grip dots across the entire upper. You're not going to find any of those on the leather variation of the shoe, and you're also not going to find the X cage on this particular shoe. Obviously, you still have the graphic on the lateral and medial side, which does have a little bit of a different pattern to it. This shoe definitely does look different in comparison to the synthetic variation. Some might argue better, some might argue worse, but this pattern printed on top is simply printed on top. It's not an extra layer of material, it's just part of the synthetic that has all of this embossed texturing and graphic on the actual surface of the material. So you're still going to get good stability through the midfoot, being that it is a solid synthetic material, definitely thicker than what you're going to find on the standard synthetic X15.1, but not what I would consider to be particularly premium. It's nice that it is a little bit thicker to match the thickness of the leather, so you're going to get somewhat of a more uniform feel than if they maintain the same X-skin synthetic that you find on the standard synthetic model of the X15.1, but nonetheless, it's nothing outrageous in terms of overall quality. I would have liked to seen a lot more leather on the shoe, mainly through the midfoot on both the lateral and medial side, but you get what you get. This is kind of what we've come to expect from Adidas, and if you've worn leather F50s in the past and you really like how they feel, this is going to be along those lines. Is this really your best option if you're looking for that natural leather feel? Probably not. You're going to get shoes with more leather on the upper that are going to feel a lot more natural than this. But again, if you really like the new X line from Adidas, whether it's the look of the shoe, the stud pattern, some certain element, then yes, this is a good option if you're looking for a leather variation within the Adidas X line. Now moving on to the rear of the shoe, you're going to find that it does have an internal plastic heel counter, but what's distinctly missing is of course the Tech Fit collar that runs basically along the edges of the heel and ankle area, as well as the tongue. So you have that kind of enclosure that's normally there. That's completely been deleted from the leather version of this shoe. So that's not an element here whatsoever. This is definitely more of a traditional cut. You have a synthetic suede liner inside, which is really, really nice. You're not going to have the same kind of minor heel slippage that you will find with the synthetic variation, that it doesn't have that same Tech Fit lining. The insole is fully removable. It's pretty much the same, just with a different graphic. Synthetic suede on the top. And then of course it's just made from a single layer of foam with that same pattern. Nothing too fancy, but it does get the job done. So overall, it does feel more traditional in comparison to the synthetic X15.1, which definitely has more of a unique sensation due to its construction, the type of material that they've used, and the enclosure, the Tech Fit enclosure that they've incorporated on the shoe as well. Now moving on to the sole plate and stud pattern, this is where everything is exactly the same in comparison to the synthetic version. It does have what they call their exo-frame sole plate, which is essentially made from a plastic plate on top of a plastic plate, which is inside the shoe. And then of course they have their material kind of printed on the bottom to fill in the cracks. So you have plastic and then a plastic plate with the cutout. So these aren't actually soft. There is plastic underneath those as well. They just have the little cutouts, one to look cool and two to shave a little bit of extra weight. That's kind of unnecessary material on the sole plate, if you will. And then of course you have their stud pattern, which is what they call their X-Claw stud pattern. It's an AG FG stud pattern combo, so it's technically allowed to be used, or designed to be used, on both firm natural grass as well as artificial grass, which is kind of interesting. But in all honesty, this is definitely more of an FG stud pattern as opposed to a true AG stud pattern. It's pretty much a recycled variation of the 2014 F50 Adizero stud pattern. I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with that shoe. Pretty much has the same studs. They're positioned in the same way. They're the exact same length. That was FG only, so I'm not quite sure how this is FG AG. It's kind of more of a marketing thing as opposed to something that is actually tested and proven to work well on artificial grass. I've used this particular stud pattern on AG fields, and what I can tell you is that it works, of course, but it doesn't necessarily feel like an AG stud pattern. You do have these kind of this row of small little studs running through the middle of the shoe that again look pretty cool, don't really have any impact on the overall performance, and these two little tiny studs right here at the tip of the toe that again are very minor. I like that they're there, but not going to have a huge impact on the overall feel of this shoe. So again, if you're playing on both firm natural grass as well as artificial grass, all of the new Adidas models are technically FG AG, although I would say that only the Ace line features what I would consider to be a true FG AG stud hybrid, if you will. This is definitely more of a firm ground stud pattern as opposed to an artificial grass one, but overall, I like the shoe. It feels good. The quality's nice. I think it looks good. I like that it's distinctly different looking in comparison to the synthetic model, whereas in the past they kind of just tried to hide the fact that it was leather and tried to make it look like the synthetic version. This just has its own unique look, and overall I like how they feel. I like the quality, and I don't have too much to complain about other than the fact that the amount of leather isn't what I would consider to be sufficient to call this a leather upper variation, but what you do get is pretty high quality, so it's hard to complain too much about the shoe. So that's pretty much it as far as tech specs go. And we're going to move on next to a quick weigh-in so we can see how lightweight these guys are. In terms of weight, I thought we'd compare the synthetic version of the X15.1 to the leather variation to see if there's any significant difference, because the norm is that the leather version does tend to weigh a little bit more. So we're going to weigh both versions for you today in real time using this scale. Keep in mind these are both in brand new condition and both the exact same size 9 US. We'll start off with the synthetic version, throw it on the scale, and you can see that they weigh in at 7.8 ounces, the equivalent of 221 grams. So remember those numbers, change the scale back to ounces, pull these off, and we'll throw on the leather version of the X15.1, and you can see that they weigh in at 8.2 ounces, a difference of 0.4 ounces, the equivalent of 233 grams. So not a significant amount of weight at all. I would say in hand as well as on feet, you're not going to notice much of a weight difference between these two shoes. Really the biggest difference that you'll notice when wearing them is just the way they feel in general. This is a thin synthetic shoe that has a tighter fit overall and a very unique fit and feel in the heel area due to that Tech Fit collar, whereas this shoe just feels a little bit more traditional, as it should, with its natural leather upper in the forefoot and toe box area. It's much less kind of tight-fitting midfoot with its synthetic material, and a pretty standard enclosure with a synthetic suede heel liner that just feels very comfortable from the get-go. So if you're trying to decide between these two shoes, weight really shouldn't be the deciding factor. Yes, the synthetic model is a little bit lighter, but not light enough to where you're actually going to notice a difference. So again, if you're trying to decide, really pick based on your preferences when it comes to feel, as opposed to just going for the shoe that technically is a little bit lighter than the other. As far as the appearance of the shoe is concerned, you can definitely tell that this is part of the X line. It has the same chaos graphic on both the lateral and medial side, but aside from that, they look distinctly different in comparison to the synthetic model. Obviously, you have the leather at the front with the visible stitching. You don't have that extra strip of color running through the forefoot and toe box area, which I know a lot of people don't like the look of. You can see that the pattern is a little bit different. You have these kind of what I would say paint scratches as opposed to paint splatter in terms of the pattern within the chaos kind of pattern, as well as the lining material. Obviously the Tech Fit collar is gone, which does make the shoe look a little bit less modern in my opinion. And then you do have the Adidas branding in black on the back of both heels. But overall, I think it's a pretty good looking shoe. I know a lot of people have mixed opinions on the new X line in general. Some people love how it looks, some people hate how it looks. I generally tend to like how they look in pretty much all the colorways that I've seen so far. Although I will say that I personally think the synthetic version does look a little bit better than the leather version. But again, it's really a matter of preference and what you like. I'd be curious to hear your opinions down below in the comment section. Do you prefer the look of the leather or synthetic variation? And with that being said, let's get into the on-feet portion of the video so we can get a better idea as to how these shoes fit and of course what the sizing is like. All right, so here is a look at the leather X15.1s on feet. On my left foot, I have the stock neon yellow laces that come with the shoes, and on my right foot, I have a pair of black and neon yellow speckled SR4U replacement laces. If you're interested in a pair of replacement laces for yourself, check out the website www.sr4ulaces.com. Find a direct link to that website down below in the description of this video. Now, in terms of how these things fit and feel on feet, it's entirely different in comparison to the synthetic X15.1. So you really can't compare the two at all. These feel a lot more natural on feet, a lot more traditional in terms of just being kind of a thicker padded material, especially in the forefoot and toe box area where you do have the K leather for the upper. The synthetic material through the midfoot does feel pretty good. It doesn't feel stiff or anything like that, which is really important. They feel comfortable from right out of the box, but will get softer over time, as you'll find with pretty much any leather shoe. So while there isn't much of a break-in process in terms of the shoes feeling uncomfortable at first, you will find that the leather, especially in the forefoot and toe box area, will stretch and form to the shape of your feet and just feel that much better after a couple hours of wear. In regards to the fit in the heel, again, it has a traditional styling, a traditional design. Synthetic suede feels great against your socks and really doesn't have any issues with discomfort or heel slippage whatsoever. They're comfortable shoes, but feel thicker and I would say a little bit more bulky on your feet in comparison to the synthetic X15.1, which is thinner, more lockdown, and just a different sensation overall in the heel and ankle area. In regards to width, it's about the same width in that it does have the exact same sole plate as the synthetic X15.1. So the shoe is not particularly wide, but will be suitable for most people. You're gonna get some stretch in the forefoot and toe box area, but not much through the midfoot because it is made from synthetic as opposed to natural leather. So as long as you don't have excessively wide feet, you shouldn't have any issues with these whatsoever. And in regards to sizing, I'm wearing my usual size 9 US here, and the fit and the length is absolutely perfect. So if you are looking to order a pair of these for yourself, they run true to size just like the synthetic model does. Alright guys, that's it for my first impressions of the leather X15.1 from Adidas. Expect more content on these on my YouTube channel in the near future, as well as a follow-up written review in the coming weeks on the review page of my website, which will be the very first link down below in the description of this video. If you want to click that link right now, in the meantime, you will find high quality images of this shoe that I took myself that'll give you a better idea as to some of the close-up details that you might not see in the online stock photos. And you'll also find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes where you'll be able to pick these guys up below their normal $220 retail price. So again, if you're interested in a pair, first link down below in the description, go ahead and check it out. If you have any questions at all regarding the leather X15.1, leave them down below in the comment section. I definitely will get an answer out to you. If you enjoyed today's video, found it helpful and informative, be sure to support it with a like. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all my social media information down below in the description as well. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. And as always, thanks for watching.